Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Okay, welcome to Talking Politics. My name is Robert Press. I'm a reporter, as you can see by my official New York City press card. I write for the Bronx Post, which we will have a commercial for at the halfway point. I also write for the Parkchester Times. Both, like this show, are part of Parrot Media Corporation. I also contribute to the Co-op City News and have a blog at www.100%bronx.blogspot.com, along with Facebook pages 100% and What is Going On in Your Community Board. The views expressed on this show are those of the host, any guest, or anybody writing comments on the bottom of the screen, and not necessarily those of Parrot Media Corporation. Now let's go to the weather report. Today, Friday, the temperature should hit 50 degrees. Saturday, tomorrow, it should be just under 60. Sunday, it goes back down to 50, and on Monday, about 55, with rain sometime in the day, as it is unknown how the approaching storm will travel across the United States, as it right now is in California. As far as our political news, the Ukraine, the latest, a day after his lengthy phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, President Donald Trump held a corresponding call Wednesday morning with Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky, trying to usher the war in Ukraine towards a ceasefire. Experts this week, though, see developments as a win for Russia. Putin successfully ushered the United States and Russia towards closer ties while only offering limited concessions in the war and refusing to commit to a full ceasefire. Russia and Ukraine said that they've swapped hundreds of prisoners of war, but both countries accuse each other of already breaking the limited ceasefire strikes overnight. Putin's words are very much at odds with reality, Zelensky claimed. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff tried to calm the waters that Russia's latest attacks on energy infrastructure were likely planned before Putin's ordered yesterday to stand down. Even though they're concerned for hours afterwards, I tend to believe President Putin is operating in good faith, Witkoff said. Now, as far as what Russia wants, they want a full ceasefire. Putin wants an end to all arms shipments to Ukraine as a prerequisite to agreeing on the pause in the war of Ukraine. At a minimum, Russia would demand a halt to the weapons from the United States. Indeed, stopping the remaining rearmament of the Ukrainian armed forces was specifically mentioned in Russia's readout, which called for the complete cessation of the foreign military aid and intelligence sharing. That could be very difficult for Europe and Ukraine to accept. European leaders fear that it would produce a scenario in which Russia rearms to attack Ukraine again after the ceasefire ends, while Ukraine can't prepare for defense. As far as the Middle East, Israel launched a wave of airstrikes across the Gaza Strip early Tuesday, saying it was striking dozens of Hamas targets in its heaviest assault on the territory since the ceasefire took effect in January. Hospitals reported more than 320 people killed, which included, they say, women and children. The surprise attack shattered a period of relative calm during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan and raised the prospect of a full return to fighting in a 17-month war that killed tens of thousands of Palestinians and caused widespread destruction across Gaza. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told Fox News that the Trump administration was consulted ahead of time on the attacks and expect plenty of fallout to continue. Here in New York City, the end to congestion pricing has been delayed. The federal government is putting New York on notice. Your refusal to end congestion pricing and your open disrespect towards the federal government is unacceptable, just as your high tolls and no free road options are a slap in the face to hardworking Americans. Your refusal to approve two vital pipelines that will lower fuel costs by 50% are against the public's best interest. Your unlawful pricing scheme charges working-class citizens to use roads the federal tax dollars already paid to build. We will provide New York with a 30-day extension as discussions continue. Know that the billions of dollars the federal government sends to New York are not a blank check. Continued noncompliance will not be taken lightly. That came in a letter from U.S. Secretary Sean Duffy, who demanded the MTA hand over data plans to tackle subway crime and safety, or else risk losing federal funding. A letter obtained by the New York Post shows that the nation's largest transit agency needs to show it's properly using federal tax dollars to ensure a crime-free commute. The trend of violent crime, homelessness, and other threats to public safety on one of our nation's most prominent metro systems is unacceptable, Duffy said in a statement. After years of soft on crime policies, our department is stepping in to restore order. The oversight letter, as I said, gives the agency 30 more days, and this letter wants the MTA head, Janet Lieber, to give the federal government by March 31st information on assaults on strap hangers, subway surfing, and fare evasion. Duffy agreed that a number of high-profile incidents on the subway system raised concerns on whether the MTA has used federal funds actually to ensure the safety of passengers and workers. MTA officials anticipate needing upwards of $14 billion from the federal government over the next 5 years to carry out its ambitious capital plan. The efforts show some signs of success. Transit crime overall is down 27% this year compared to 2024. Felony assaults, however, so far this year remain a whopping 56% higher compared to 2019 levels. The MTA data shows, and the system riders need to be sure of a safe operating environment to provide transportation services. Duffy's letter states the transit riders and workers of New York City deserve nothing less. And meanwhile, the head of an NYPD transit district in Queens was stripped of his command amid allegations that he had police reports falsified to downplay subway crimes on his watch, according to the New York Post. Captain Stephen Hyland, who headed Transit District 20 in Jamaica, allegedly had 2 sergeants and a lieutenant under his command falsify reports, even allegedly forging signatures to play down assaults and grand larcenies in the subway system, the law enforcement sources said. The NYPD takes the proper classification of complaint reports with the utmost seriousness, and there is zero tolerance for any intentional misconduct related to crime reporting, the NYPD said in a statement. Now, as far as Donald Trump goes, there are striking new polls results out from NBC and CNN, both of which find the Democratic Party's favorability at a record low. That's driven in part by anger from Democratic voters who, in a reversal from Trump's first presidency, don't want their party to compromise with Trump. Both surveys find nonetheless, and NBC has the Dems up by 1 point on the general ballot for the midterm elections. Also shows just how different this Trump term is, with Republican voters jubilant over Trump's early moves. NBC finds his approval rating at an overall time high, and the percentage of voters who say America is on the right track is at its highest since 2004. However, 54% of voters disapprove of Trump's handling of the economy, the first time he's ever had a majority disapproval on that metric. It's a reversal from his first term, when polls showed how many Americans disapproved of Trump overall, but appreciated his approach on the economy. The poll also showed voters liking Doge, D-O-G-E, that's Elon Musk agency, more in theory than in practice. As far as Chuck Schumer goes, he is facing fallout from, he is the minority leader of the Senate. He is defending himself in the face of a Democratic backlash to his decision to vote with Republicans for a stopgap spending bill to stave off government shutdowns, saying that he was willing to take the political hits to protect his members and the constituents from a long-term disaster. On a day of anger among many Democratic lawmakers and activists, some of who gathered outside Schumer's Brooklyn home to protest his decision to shrink from a shutdown fight. The 5 terms, let's see, what do we got? Okay. The 5-term senator shrugged off the prospect of a primary challenge that could cost him his job and said he was doing the right thing. Representative Congresswoman Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez of New York declined to rule out a mounting primary challenge against Schumer. She told CNN there was a deep sense of outrage and betrayal about his decision on the pending bill. President Trump weighed in with a political kiss of death for Schumer, congratulating him on doing the right thing. A non-pass would be a country destroyer. Approval will lead us to new heights, he wrote on social media. Again, really good and smart move by Senator Schumer. However, Schumer's colleagues are facing a central question amid the fallout of the government funding with Schumer's vote with the Republicans. Do you have confidence in the Senate Majority Leader? The answer Tuesday from Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi, the former Speaker of Congress, 2 of the most prominent House Democrats, was yes, we do have both have the Minority Leader and the former Speaker said answering reporters' questions at separate Medicaid Day of Action events in Brooklyn and California. It was more of a lifeline that they provided Schumer after he and 9 other Senate Democrats voted to back the GOP's 7-month spending patch in a move that has angered the Democratic base, perhaps underscoring the residual resentment. One progressive group, Our Revolution, said on Tuesday 89% of its members want Schumer's resignation as Senate Minority Leader. Then another liberal group, Indivisible, announced 82% of its leaders in New York and 91% of its leaders nationwide want Schumer to give up his post. That backlash wasn't limited to the left. Moderates have posted or criticized the veteran elected official as well. Schumer has been explaining his decision in TV news interviews as he promotes his new book on anti-Semitism. I felt the very people who were upset now, if we went through the shutdown, would be coming 2 or 3 weeks later saying, get it open, get my SNAP program back, get mass transit open, he told MSNBC on Tuesday. And I'd say, well, it's a shutdown. We can't. They'd say, well, why'd you let it happen? He said that he and Jeffries have a long-term strategy in other ways to fight President Trump. Now, as far as unemployment figures here in New York, which has been posted by the New York Department of Labor, as far as January 2025 compared to January 2024. As far as the United States is concerned, in 2024, January 2024, the unemployment rate was 4.1%. This year in January 25, it was 4.4%, or a raise of 0.3%. In New York State, the unemployment rate was 4.4%. In January 25, it was 4.6%, a change of plus 0.2%. New York City overall, the unemployment rate was 4.8% in January 2024. In January 2025, it was 5.3%, or a gain, or an increase of 0.5%. By borough, Staten Island was the lowest at 4.2% in January 2024 and 4.6% in 25, 0.4 increase. Queens had a 5% last January. It had 5.1% this January for a 0.1 increase. Manhattan was at 4.4% last year. This year it was at 4.8%, an increase of 0.4%. Brooklyn was at 6% in January 2024. It was 6.4% in January 2025, an increase of 0.4%. And the Bronx was 6.4% last January. It is 7.1% this January 25, a gain of 0.7%. And only 2 New York State counties had an unemployment rate of over 7%. Bronx County, like I said, came in at 7.1%. Yes, I know we heard that last night on the leadership committee meeting, AJ. So I believe you're going to be speaking at the full community board next Thursday. So And yes, Kevin, I just spoke about it. So let me get back to the unemployment rates. Okay. As I said, Bronx has 71.1%, and they have a population of now only 1,384,724 people, down from a high of over 1.4 million. Hamilton County, which is located not too far from the Canadian border, had the second highest unemployment rate at 7%. Now, Hamilton County has a population of only 5,107 people, making it the least populous county of New York and the only county with fewer than 10,000 residents. Now, which counties in New York State had the lowest unemployment rate for January 2025? Well, nearby Rockland County had the lowest at 3.3%. And neighboring Westchester County had an unemployment rate of 3.5%. Both nearby counties are less than half of that of the Bronx. Let me stop here and go to a commercial. Yes, AJ, I see what you're saying about your complaint on about the district manager of Community Board 11. However, we're not going to discuss that here. If you want to come on the show, I can discuss it. But let me go to a commercial right now, and I'll come back with some more stories about Governor Hochul and the mayor's race and who's got how much money. So let's go to a commercial right now, Mr. Producer. Thank you.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
Now, back to the state news. New York State Republicans are calling for Governor Kathy Hochul to rescind her executive order that prohibits the state from hiring any state service job, any correction officers, that is, that were terminated or resigned because of the 3-week wildcat strike. The executive order also recommends these workers be removed from the Central Registry of Police and Peace Officers for cause. That would also prevent them from being hired as a police or peace officer in the state or local jurisdictions. About 2,000 termination notices were sent out when the state declared the strike over on March 10th. In a state where employees are barred from inquiring about a job's applicant's criminal history, this executive order prohibits local and state employment for law enforcement officers whose only sin was standing up for safer working conditions. At the heart of the issue is a state law that says employers can't hold prior criminal convictions against employees in hiring, but there are limitations. Though no officer technically has been convicted of violating the state's Taylor law, which bars most public employees from striking, it appears that some of the 2,000 correction officers that were fired by Governor Hochul for not returning to work included dozens of employees who were injured, sick, on medical family leave, and in at least one case, pregnancy. As far as the mayor's race goes here in New York City, Governor Hochul said she is not weighing in on the mayor's race publicly, at least for now. But one candidate revealed having the support of Hochul, only to have the Democratic governor say a few days later it meant nothing. City Council Speaker Adrian Adams said Hochul privately told her that she supports her run for mayor. In so many words, we appreciate everything you've done for the city. That was pretty much it, Adrian said during a Pix 11 interview when asked if Hochul expressed wanting Adams to run. Hochul now says the supposed conversation was nothing special. I've had calls from just about everybody, so don't read into conversations Hochul told reporters this past week when asked about the council speaker touting her support at the St. Patrick's Day parade in Midtown Manhattan Monday. People call me, ask for my support, and I say everybody should run who wants to run, the governor said. An Adrienne Adams spokesperson brushed it off. We're not going to comment about a conversation Adrienne may have had with the governor regarding her campaign for mayor or anything else, she said. Hochul made the comment after scarfing down a pint of Guinness with Assemblyman Alex Boris. The governor is in a tough spot, hesitant to weigh in on the race to replace Mayor Adams, who she declined to oust amid her supposed removal quest. She continues to avoid criticizing early mayoral frontrunner Andrew Cuomo and pledges that her next governor, the next mayor-governor relationship should contrast the Governor Cuomo's frosty relationship with then-Mayor Bill de Blasio when they served overlapping terms as governor and mayor. Adrienne Adams told Pix 11 that Attorney General Letitia James is one of her greatest supporters, but James doesn't want to talk about it either. She said at the St. Patrick's Day parade, no politics today, as she told Playbook on the parade route. Now, who has what amount of money in this mayor's race? Former Governor Andrew Cuomo already collected a hefty $1.15 million in donations for his comeback bid as mayor of New York City. Cuomo's campaign was kicked off March 1st and announced this past Monday. It has received contributions from 2,821 supporters over 13 days, totaling over $1.5 million. His campaign said $332,530 raised will be eligible for up to 8-to-1 in matching public funds pending approval from the Campaign Finance Board, and those matching funds could take the overall amount up to over $4.1 million, according to his campaign. By comparison, City Council Speaker Adrienne Adams, another late entry into the Democratic primary for mayor, has raised only $128,000 in her first week of campaigning, falling short of qualifying for public matching funds in this reporting period that ended March 14th. Cuomo's campaign also expects to reach the maximum allowable fundraising cap with matching funds by the next fundraising deadline. I believe it's $8 million they're allowed. After the latest filing, here is what the leading candidates have on hand after campaign expenses. Mayor Adams has over $3 million on hand. Brad Lander has over $3.7 million. Zohran Mamdani has over $3.6 million. Assemblyman Zelnor Myrie, State Senator Zelnor Myrie has $2.35 million. Former City Council Controller has almost $3 million. State Senator Jessica Ramos has only $1,039 in her account to spend. And as I said, Adrienne Adams, of that $333,000 plus that she raised, she has spent some money and has only $276,000 in change left. And former Bronx Assemblyman Michael Blake has $18,311 on hand. As for other contenders, the Republican Curtis Sliwa has over $55,000 on hand right now. Whitney Tilson, an independent, has over $84,000, and James Walden, another independent, has over $1 million left in his campaign. Now, a few items, as I said, in the most watched mayoral race in years, New York City Council Speaker seeks to offer an alternative for Democrats, with embattled Mayor Adams and disgraced Governor Andrew Cuomo leading the pack in name recognition. She attempts to become the first woman elected mayor in the reliability in the Democratic city. One lever she's looking to pull ahead of the June 24th Democratic primary is the Divine Nine, a network of historically Black sororities and fraternities that were among Kamala Harris's staunchest supporters in her White House bid, Political reports. Her first week of fundraising demonstrates she needs the boost they add. An assemblyman who leads the Brooklyn Democratic Party and who has been a key backer of Mayor Adams has endorsed his main rival in the upcoming mayoral election, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, on Sunday. The decision by Assemblywoman Rodney Bichette Hermelin is one of the clearest signs yet that the winning coalition Eric Adams built in 2021 has been completely fractured. She is not only endorsing Cuomo, but will serve as his senior political advisor, an honorary role. Now, Mayor Adams has blamed the perception that New York City is unsafe and its sprawling homelessness crisis squarely on the Democratic challenger in the mayoral race, who says he is best positioned to fix the issues, former Governor Andrew Cuomo. Mayor Adams also has named Randy Mastro, whose attempt to become New York City's top lawyer failed last year amid widespread opposition from city council members, as he has been appointed as New York's first deputy mayor. And yesterday, New York City Mayor Eric Adams visited PS 35 here in the Bronx to tout the school's new on-site mental health clinic funded by the Mental Health Continuum. But Mayor Adams' preliminary budget does not include funding next year for this program. And he has called out, like I said, he has called out former Governor Cuomo in some harsh words during the talk show, The Reset, Wednesday morning. When you look at the problems we are facing around public safety, it was born out of Albany. It was the laws that he passed, and he wanted to move, Adams said of Cuomo, looking to oust him this year. You can't come back later and try to reinvent yourself when you were in office already. The recidivism we're seeing in our city is because the laws that were passed by him, Mayor Adams added, reinforcing that the bail reforms Cuomo signed into law in 2019. Most of Cuomo's Democratic rivals are hitting him from the political left, while Adams is criticizing him for not being tough enough on crime and disorder. Adams and Cuomo have rarely criticized each other on the trail, with both preferring to pile on to the left-winging challenges while they try to appeal to moderates. Cuomo spokesman Rich Azzopardi responded to the comments, saying the people of New York City will judge performance. There's also a report out on the COVID, what happened during COVID, and Governor Cuomo, it said, used heavy-handed tactics and secrecies with the Big Apple as city officials struggled to contain the deadly COVID pandemic. In a scathing report, the study analyzed New York City's handling of the health crisis, which specifically criticized the toxic relationship between then Mayor Bill de Blasio and then Governor Andrew Cuomo. Challenges between both administrations impeded city and state collaborations and contributed to duplicative work, inconsistent recommendations, and a loss of trust for New Yorkers, says the COVID-19 response review report covering January 2020 to January 2022. The analysis was prepared by the Health Department, Office of Emergency Management, and the Health and Hospitals Corporation, which right now are under Mayor Eric Adams. Cuomo is accused in the report of bigfooting City Hall with unnecessary micromanaging. In March 2020, the state restricted the city's access to its health emergency response data, and the disharmony spilled over into the COVID-19 vaccine distribution period. The city obtained its vaccine directly from the Federal Center for Disease Controls, but the state had to approve it, and it was required, which created an additional bureaucracy layer. De Blasio publicly announced plans to close schools and non-essential businesses because of COVID-19 surges in Brooklyn and Queens in October 2020, but Cuomo, who had the authority to approve such measures, rejected the mayor's plan and announced his own closures for the city to enforce. Cuomo defended the oversight of the pandemic in the city as governor. Feeble attempts to rewrite history now 5 years later in the midst of a political campaign are ineffective and disingenuous, Mr. Rapazio, his spokesman, said. What's forgotten here is that Elmhurst Hospital, city-run hospital, nearly collapsed, and there was no plan to redirect patients, he said. The city needed a manager then and does now. This was done in a century pandemic. However, State Senator Gustavo Rivera, who also claimed that then Governor Cuomo blocked vaccine clinics from opening up in his district to spite him, the Cuomo campaign fired back with a list of fired vaccination sites in Northwest Bronx in 2021 and said Gustavo was a liar. The facts are the facts. He's trying to block and tackle for his DSA buddies, that's Democratic Socialists of America buddies, spokesman as a party said. There is a plan to upgrade shoplifting into burglary charges. District attorneys across New York are trying to tighten the screws on shoplifters by training retailers on methods to ban repeat offenders and threaten serious prison sentences if they attempt. The new strategy involves trespass notices warning shoplifters they'll face the burglary charges if they return, giving prosecutors a way to bump up offenses out of an overwhelmed misdemeanor court and detain a person on Rikers Island until they can pay cash bail. While low-level crimes have surged in recent years, district attorneys argue these efforts criminalize poverty. They strategy circumvent state reforms that eliminated cash bail for most misdemeanors like shoplifting and nonviolent felonies. Manhattan DA has launched the program last October in 200 businesses. The results are 350 shoplifting charges that would change the burglaries. They do not request bail, the Manhattan DA's office said, unless the case involves injury, threats, or dangerous weapons. Brooklyn, which began in early 2024, said they served 200 trespass notices in 2024. Queens started the initiative at the end of 2021 and has 430 shops that have filed a total of 1,600 trespass notices, resulting in 83 people being charged with burglary felonies. Prosecutors from the Bronx and Staten Island did not answer any questions about similar expansions. The criminal justice reforms of 2020 made many low-level crimes like shoplifting ineligible for bail, meaning the accused shouldn't be held in Rikers. It's circumventing the bail laws. It's done intentionally to turn low-level misdemeanor properties offenses into felony charges, said Gina Mitchell, an attorney for Queens defendants. Now, the question is Rikers closing, though? And I know I'm running over, so I'm going to be a few more minutes. The population on Rikers now has risen to 7,067 people this week, the highest total since 2019, and almost twice as high as the target number needed for the long-standing plan to transfer incarcerated operations to 4 borough-based jails. While Rikers Island has a maximum capacity of 10,000, the population increase jeopardizes the $16 billion plan to close Rikers by 2020 as required by the de Blasio-era law. The borough-based jail initiative have called for the construction of 4 smaller detention facilities near courthouses in Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, and Queens, only holding 4,160 jail beds along with 363 hospital beds. Due to the delays, the new jails are not expected to be completed until 2023. When Mayor Adams first took office in 2022, the average daily population on Rikers Island was 5,700. One fact that jail officials failed to discuss: the number of people getting arrested has gone up each year since Adams took office. An estimated 122,304 people were arrested and prosecuted in 2024, up from 109,965 in 2023 and 92,662 in 2022. As far as mayoral candidate Brad Lander goes, it appears he was caught napping by the New York Post, who put multiple photos showing Lander with his eyes sealed shut, sitting in a crowded pew when they were during the memorial services for civil rights champion Hazel Dukes. Lander spokesman Dora Peckett insists the controller wasn't snoozing. That's not exactly breaking news that some people close their eyes at spiritual events, she said. There is a statement from 13th City Council candidate David Diaz on Preston High School where he says, as an active PTA parent, I've seen firsthand how many parents invest in their school's education, how much devastation. A school is more than just a building. Now, candidate Diaz, okay, I was an active parent, but I was a parent leader. On your statement, it says nothing about being a parent leader. And on Wednesday, March 19th at 3 p.m., your statement comes out on Facebook when the issue of Preston High School closing began on February 25th and was reported the next day in the Bronx Times on February 26th. Where have you been since then? It's almost a month since you've made this statement. So candidate David Diaz, you talk about being an active parent, tells me you are not a parent leader, and therefore you are not a leader in the community. Lastly, I want to go over last night's Community Board 10 vote on zoning for the Bally's Casino. On over 300 people packed Villa Barone in Frogs Neck to see the vote on the 3 ULURP processes for the Bally's Hotel and Casino to be built on the former Trump Links golf course, now known as Bally Links. Dozens of union members spoke who were there, came, and some spoke in favor. About 10 of them or so were on hand as hundreds of local residents, and only a few were able to speak against the Bally's proposal as the union members spoke in favor of it. 16 people in all spoke, 10 in favor, 6 against. After he closed the public speaking section, Community Board 10 Chair Joe Russo let the CEO of Bally's, Shunyung Kim, speak to the Community Board. Russo was then disappointed at the cheers and boos that he closed the meeting, citing safety matters. The public was asked to leave, with only elected official reps and the trio of media people, which included this reporter, were allowed to stay in the closed room. After the room cleared one by one, board members discussed the issue, saying the community is against the proposal and that many said they are standing with the community. Some had no comments on the issue. The few board members who spoke in favor of the Bally's resolution said what a great opportunity this would be for the area with the jobs and the economic growth. The end result was a 29-5 vote against the Bally's resolution for these land use changes. And you can see by some of the photos on my blog of the crowd, my blog at www.100%.blogspot.com. So you have to look in the archive section on the left for the Bronx Community Board 10 votes down Bally's. They included in their resolution, they wanted a series of community benefits agreement, which I don't know if Bally's was going to agree to it. Bally's mentioned they were going to give $100 million. And yes, Mr. Producer, I'm going to wind this up. They said they were going to provide $100 million for parks, but that means parks in the Bronx. And I could tell you from being involved in the water filtration plant at Croton, where the city gave $240 million for parks. Former Bronx Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr., when he was an assemblyman who voted for alienation of parkland in Van Cortlandt Park, one day I met him at Soundview Park, and he says, "Oh, I was glad to get $10 million so I could fix up this park." So if any member who voted for that, it didn't mean that parks in Community Board 10 or any improvements in Community Board 10 was going to be done by Bally's. It would be done in the Bronx. So let me sign off on that and say I am glad that the board voted against alienating parkland for Bally's. As one member of Community Board 10 said, I like the idea, but I don't like it here in Parkland. So I'm going to sign off with that. Thank you, AJ, for commenting. Thank you, Kevin Diola, for commenting. And thank you for watching. And anyone who's watching on YouTube in the future, maybe tomorrow, the next day, or next week, I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you watch next week here on Talking Politics. Thank you.
Imagine a media platform that reshapes the conversation, empowers your voice, and redefines the Bronx community. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative. For businesses, politicians, and government agencies, we offer targeted advertising solutions that drive results. Amplify your message. Reach the heart of the Bronx and beyond. Our platform connects you to the community. Learn more. Email info@bronxpost.com or call 718-892-5555. Visit www.bronxpost.com for breaking news and updates. Bronx Post, changing the reality, changing the narrative.
In a world where the quality of information available to poorer communities is doctored, tainted and sometimes regressive, where the words fake news have come to mean other people's opinions, it is vital to rely on news platforms with journalists who have feet on the ground and can report the truth. New York Parrot, a New York-based national and global news outlet, is changing the narratives of media operations. We focus on the news that matters, like self-empowerment, entrepreneurship, finances, health, security, politics, and more. We strive to curb violence, racial and economic discrimination, and to promote peace and socio-economic development of multiculturally diverse world. As we give voice to the people, we also give your business a voice and make it heard. Get your products and services off the ground by advertising on our fast-growing platform. With so much of daily visits to New York Parrot, you can't afford to be invisible to prospective clients on the websites they trust the most. Our posts reach millions of people across the New York State and around the world. Advertising on our new site will unlock an audience of thousands of potential customers on your doorstep. New York Parrot is born to prosperously speak tomorrow for the voiceless.
Keep watching The Politics every Friday.